When Donna Brazile released her article detailing the extent to which Hillary Clinton's campaign took control of the DNC, thus making a supposedly neutral organization incapable of exercising impartiality, well, news that our democracy was brazenly undermined didn't seem to garner the coverage one would expect in evening news. So according to Joe Concha of The Hill, he reports that ABC's World News Tonight, NBC Nightly News, and CBS Evening News all didn't report the allegations by Brazile on Thursday evening, despite it receiving considerable coverage on cable news and in print and online media. Brazile was also trending as one of Twitter's top topics on Thursday. Now, seemingly, the reason why evening news didn't cover this right away was because they wanted more time to come up with a way to downplay Donna Brazile's allegations. They wanted to be able to lie and obfuscate in a manner that was actually effective. They wanted to make you believe, by doing enough propaganda on behalf of the DNC, that this revelation wasn't as bad as Donna Brazile made it out to be. But that's not true at all, and the ways in which the media brazenly lied about this revelation is detailed by Glenn Greenwald in an article for The Intercept. So he explains NBC published an article by Alex Seitz-Wald that recited and endorsed the Clinton camp's primary defense. Brazile was wrong because the agreement in question, a copy of which they provided to Seitz-Wald, applied only to preparations for the general election and had nothing to do with the primary season. The problem with this claim is that it is blatantly and obviously false. All one has to do to know this is read the agreement. The NBC article that was originally used to spread this claim now includes what amounts to a serious walkback, if not outright retraction, of the DNC's principal defense. And now it says, still, it clearly allowed the Clinton campaign to influence DNC decisions made during an active primary, even if intended for preparations later. Now, regardless if NBC came out and retracted this claim, well, this didn't stop pundits in the mainstream media from using this piece of misinformation to downplay the allegations that Donna Brazile made.
Well, my issue is not that she's speaking out. My issue is the fact that she's been wrong. It's been proven with Alex Seitz-Wald's reporting for your own site, MSNBC.com, that the memo that she's talking about in the political excerpt was not, in fact, subject to the primary, but it was all for the general election. And Bernie, had he won the nomination, would have been able to make the same arrangement. So the fact that she's getting things wrong is a big problem.
Actually, you're wrong. The fact is that the control of the DNC was ceded over to Hillary Clinton's campaign before she was able to actually win the nomination officially, because the DNC didn't have any money. That's why they were inclined to sign this joint fundraising agreement. But I mean, look, this guy knows what he's doing. This is how misinformation and propaganda works. Even if it's debunked, the idea is already out there. Once you let the cat out of the bag, there's no putting it back in. So once this idea is spread, then it just circulates. But this wasn't the only piece of misinformation that went around. Glenn Greenwald continues, to make the Clinton DNC agreement appear benign and normal, the claim was quickly and widely circulated that Bernie Sanders had also signed the same agreement with the DNC as Clinton had. This too was false in the most fundamental way possible. Simply put, the agreement Sanders signed with the DNC, which the Sanders camp appears to have provided ABC News in order to debunk the claim, did not contain any of the provisions vesting control over the DNC that made the Clinton agreement cited by Brazile so controversial.
Both the Sanders campaign and the Clinton campaign signed joint fundraising agreement.
Now, Donna Brazile herself went on ABC News to explain exactly why this was no normal joint fundraising agreement. The nature of this was very unorthodox and uncommon.
The Sanders campaign set up a joint fundraising account as well, but they chose not to put money in it. But they also chose to allow the DNC to control what little funds they did put in it. This was a separate, what this was an additional memorandum.
Right, so what Donna Brazile's document reveals essentially is that the deck was stacked against Bernie Sanders. And it's not just this joint fundraising agreement that gives us evidence of that. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons to believe that the DNC was doing a lot to stack the deck in favor of Hillary Clinton. It wasn't just this, it was the WikiLeaks emails, it was superdelegates. But seeing that WikiLeaks is one of the main ways that progressives are validated, well, another way that the mainstream media tried to attack this notion that the primary was rigged was to call the credibility of the WikiLeaks emails into question altogether. As Greenwald continues, last year, the time WikiLeaks began publishing emails and documents from the DNC and John Podesta's email inbox, Clinton officials and their media supporters have constantly insinuated and sometimes outright stated that the WikiLeaks documents were frauds because they had been altered. What was most notable about this accusation was how easily it would have been proven had it really been true. All anyone had to do was show the actual original email that they sent or received and then compare it to the altered WikiLeaks version, and that would have been proof that the WikiLeaks archive was unreliable. Associated Press published a report that countless journalists seized upon to claim that proof finally had emerged that WikiLeaks documents had been altered. The claim in the AP report is incredibly simple and limited. It does not involve any claim that WikiLeaks altered any documents or that any of the emails it published were frauds. Rather, the claim is that Guccifer, on one of the documents that he published, placed a confidential watermark that did not appear on another version. And can you guess what journalists did next? Well, predictably, they then extrapolated from a supposedly added watermark that all of WikiLeaks emails were edited. So as you can see here from two journalists, Brian Klass and Natasha Bertrand, they're both saying that Guccifer 2.0 emails, that's plural, emails were edited when all the original story points to was him potentially placing a confidential watermark over one email. And again, they still can't confirm that this was added by Guccifer himself. So this is how propaganda works. You put an idea out there and it permeates. Even if you retract that statement, well, once the idea is out there, then the masses see what these journalists are putting out there and they think, oh, okay, so all the emails from WikiLeaks were fake. But no, that's not what the Associated Press implied at all. So this is irresponsible reporting on behalf of these two journalists. But there was another piece of misinformation that I want to talk about because this was used to discredit Donna Brazile's character. And actually, it was used to discredit her intelligence. So in the Washington Post, they published a story about how Brazile considered replacing Clinton after her fainting spell. And the story made it seem as though Brazile thought that she had the power to do this unilaterally, except she never said that. And the Washington Post actually had to issue a clarification stating that this wasn't the case, and Donna Brazile didn't actually believe that. Now, of course, based on this story published in the Washington Post, Greenwald explains journalists on Twitter spent hours yesterday mocking, maligning, and attacking the reputation of Brazile for a claim that she simply never made, all because a tweeted headline, which they never bothered to read past or evaluate, made them think they were justified in doing so in order to malign someone who has quickly and bizarrely become one of the Democrats' primary enemies.
The fact that she would, propose to thwart the Democratic small d will of the people and who voted for Hillary Clinton by replacing her because she had a fainting spell, I think that should raise a lot more alarm than I think maybe is being raised at the moment. I think if I had done half the things that she admits to in these excerpts, I'm not sure I would be telling folks.
So this story provides us with numerous cut and dry examples of propaganda and how journalists in the media have an agenda. They're not concerned with the truth. They are concerned with promoting their agenda. And it just so happens that this agenda is the same agenda of the Democratic Party establishment. They are trying to provide cover to a party establishment that just subverted democracy. And instead of calling out that corruption, they attack the messenger. Now, Donna Brazile is not perfect. I think that she has questionable ethics, as was revealed by the leaking of a question to Hillary Clinton's campaign. But the fact of the matter is that these journalists have an agenda, and that agenda is to spread misinformation and do propaganda on behalf of the Democratic Party establishment. And it's really important that we all call them out on their BS because this is harmful.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.